Hello, beautiful homemakers. We're continuing with Secrets of Fascinating Womanhood. We're chapter number 7, secret number 4. Allow him to lead. Thursday evening, after David and Tiffany had gone to bed, Angela took her writing pad and sat at the dining room table to write Ted another note. This was to fulfill assignments 2 and 3 from the previous night's lesson on making your husband number 1. She planned to tell Ted how much she appreciated his past support of her and the children, and also to tell him how important he was to her, and that he was now number 1 in her life. As she sat wondering how best to start, the phone rang. Angela reached over and answered it. "Hello?" "Ted here, Angie." Angela felt her heart beat faster. "Hi, Ted." Her voice was high and nervous. "Are the children still up?" "No, I sent them off to bed early, but they're probably still awake. Do you want to speak to them? I'll go and get them." No, it's all right. I read your letter." "He's been drinking," thought Angela. "I can tell by his voice." Despite her nervousness, she felt her familiar anger begin to rise. Then she remembered the first secret of fascinating womanhood. Accept him as he is. So she breathed deeply and said, "I really meant what I wrote, Ted. I'm just about to write you another one." Angela tried to gather enough courage to tell Ted what she'd planned to write about, making him number 1 in her life, but she couldn't do it. "I'll look forward to that," said Ted. Then silence. Angela sensed that Ted wanted to say more, but couldn't trust himself. "Well, tell David and Tiff I rang. Ask them if they want to come to the stock cars Saturday night. Tell David to come and see me at work on his way home from school tomorrow. He can let me know then." Another silence. "Well, I'd better go." "Okay, then. Good night, Ted." Angela's palms were clammy when she hung up the phone. Why did she get so nervous when speaking to Ted? He seemed to be just as nervous as her, too. "A couple of nutcases," she said aloud, picking up her pen again. Angela felt much better when she had finished writing the note. She read it through. "Dear Ted, it was nice of you to ring tonight. I would have liked to have told you this on the phone, but I have decided to put it in writing. Ted, I now realize the great responsibility you have carried over the years in supporting me and our children, and in providing us a home. I do appreciate it. It must be a big load to carry. I want you to know that even though we are apart for now, you are the most important person in my life, and always will be. Love, Angela." Angela smiled and felt a glow of satisfaction inside as she sealed the envelope. She walked outside to put the envelope in her car so that she would be sure to remember to post tomorrow. However, it was a clear, mild night, and Angela suddenly felt full of energy. She decided to go for another run to the post office and post Ted's note tonight. She went back inside and put on her running clothes and shoes and set off. Angela was surprised at her energy. This time she was able to run nearly all the distance to the post office. She only slowed to a walk twice to get her breath. However, she was puffing furiously when she arrived. She posted Ted's note and then enjoyed a peaceful walk back home through the tree-lined streets of her quiet suburb. The fragrance of spring blossoms scented the night air. Despite her problems, Angela felt glad to be alive. As she prepared for bed, she felt relaxed and warm. She remembered to kneel and say her prayers. She forgot to do so most nights. She prayed that Ted would accept her note and that everything would turn out well. She got into bed and fell asleep in just a few minutes. The next thing she heard was Tiffany snoring softly on the other side of the bed, and it was morning. Angela again felt alive and full of energy. Early Saturday evening, David and Tiffany excitedly left to walk around to Ted's flat to go to the stock cars with him. Later that night, Angela waited up for them to come home. Just before 11 p.m., she heard Ted's van come up the driveway. Apprehensively, she went out to meet him. The outside security light came on, and Angela immediately noticed the deep shine on the van's paintwork and some new stripes that Ted had added. She walked up to his window. Ted lowered the window with an uncertain look on his face. "Hey, you've got your van looking really snazzy, Ted. I like your new stripes," she added, remembering to be specific in her admiration. Ted's face broke into a shy grin. Seeing this, Angela relaxed and smiled back at Ted. She felt a warmth in her heart. That was the first time she had been able to smile at Ted in over 2 years. "We had a neat time, Mom," yelled David as he climbed out of the van. "And Dad bought us a hot dog." "Silly now. Well, come on, you two. Off to bed. It's late." She felt prompted to invite Ted in for a warm drink, but didn't feel she could handle it yet. "Good night, Ted," she said, smiling at him again. Ted looked at her again uncertainly, then gave another shy grin. "Good night, Angie." He reversed out of the driveway. Angela walked slowly back inside and slid the ranch cider door closed behind her. Tiffany was in the kitchen. "Did Dad say anything tonight?" "Not much," said Tiffany, tossing her blonde hair as she poured a glass of milk. "I told him you were giving up smoking, and he seemed happy. And he doesn't smoke, Mom. You told me he smoked now." "Well, I'm pleased to hear that, Tiffany. Did he tell you he doesn't smoke?" "Yes, I asked him." Angela felt good inside. "Well, off to bed, Tiffany." "Okay, good night, Mom." "Good night, Tiffany." "I think I'll sleep in my own bed tonight, Mom." "If you like, dear." It was soon Wednesday evening again. "Good evening, class," smiled the teacher, Harmony. "You seem to be in fine spirits tonight. I'm guessing you have all done your assignments." There was a murmur of agreement, except for Bev. She made the excuse that her husband had been a pain this week, and she hadn't felt like doing them. The smile vanished from the teacher's face, and she said, "Oh, Bev, I'm disappointed. Please try and do them this week. I really do care about you. Ignore his bad behavior and just do them, especially the listing of your husband's good points." Angela heard Bev mutter, "What good points?" But the teacher didn't appear to hear her. "Right, let's begin as usual by hearing 2 experiences from during the week. Who would like to go first?" Diane raised her hand. "Diane, good. Let's hear from you first. Come out to the front here." Angela noticed that Diane looked more attractive now than she had in the first class. At that time she had appeared depressed and had broken down in tears. She also seemed to have gained some weight, stood more erect, and was much happier. Tonight, for the first time, she wore attractive, feminine clothes, and her voice was more confident. It had lost its thin monotone, and now had expression and personality. Diane, a true experience. "I had been extremely happy all day, but when my husband came home he cast a shadow of gloom and was grumpy. I was determined not to let his gloom rub off on me. So as we learned last week, I made him comfortable, invited him to talk over the day. He just wanted to relax, so I continued to prepare our evening meal. When I went to call him to dinner, his head was bowed, and there were wet tears on his cheeks. Tenderly, I softly said, 'Dear, share it with me.' All of a sudden he burst into deep sobs, and he opened the lid of Pandora's box. He had lost all faith in womanhood through the tragic experience of a previous marriage. Out stormed all of his resentments, hatred towards women, and fears of the future. He had opened his shell. Since that evening last week, our love has had the freedom to grow, even to the height of him telling me with a big hug that I am everything a man could want in a wife." The teacher stood and hugged Diane a long time when she had finished talking. Diane looked even happier as she took her seat. Angela felt happy for her also. She could barely believe a woman could change so much in a few weeks. There was a hunger in her heart for a similar experience with Ted. Cherry now had her hand up and was waving it around. "Cherry, do you have another experience? Come on up and share it with us. Cherry, a true experience. I had the perfect opportunity to use the secret of sympathy on the day after last week's class. When my husband came home from an unusually bad day at work, he was in a terrible mood, ready to pick a fight over the least little thing. Instead of being on the defensive and arguing with him as I usually do, I simply told him how glad I was to have him home. Then, since he didn't seem to want to talk about anything to me, I just left him alone. Instead of asking him to watch our little girl while I fixed dinner, as is a usual routine, I made some comment about him working so hard and needing to rest, and I took care of her. I did my best at being cheerful, though it was very difficult. However, I won out in the end. For that evening after dinner, for the first time since we've been married, my husband didn't leave the table immediately, but sat and talked to me for a good hour. It was a wonderful feeling. I felt as if we had really communicated with each other. That's wonderful, Cherry, said the teacher, looking excited. Her face was glowing, and Angela thought she looked 20 years younger. Remember, the time when your husband comes home is the most important time of the whole day. Prepare for it. Make it special for him. You'll hardly believe the difference it will make. Now, for the fourth secret of fascinating womanhood, we turn to the Bible again. She picked up the heavy, open Bible off the table and handed it to Helena. Helena, would you please read for us the lines I've highlighted here in Genesis? The first part is the verse we read in Lesson 2, on explaining a man's sensitive pride. Remember, this is God speaking to Eve. Helena read, Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. Okay, now, Helena, read further down what God says to her husband, Adam. By the sweat of your face you shall obtain your food, until you return to the ground from which you were taken. Thank you, Helena, said the teacher, taking back the Bible. Now these 2 decrees of God are the foundation of secret number 4. She turned and wrote on the board, Secret number 4. Your husband's God-given role is to lead you and provide for you. Allow him to do it. Beth, the slim young career woman, said, Oh, come on, teacher. That is a bit old-fashioned. Nowadays marriage is a partnership. I know mine is. Like most husbands and wives, we both work to provide. You can't survive on one income today. Thank you for being frank with us, Beth. Yes, class, what Beth has said does seem to be the view of much of the world today. Elsie spoke. But there's a saying, Harmony. When you are in step with the world, you are out of step with God. Thank you, Elsie. Yes, I believe Elsie is right. In Fascinating Womanhood, we return to correct principles. Principles that are true and are known to work. True and proven laws that God has given us in the Scriptures. Allowing our husband to lead us and provide for us by his own efforts alone greatly enhances his feeling of masculinity. Remember, that's the most pleasant feeling a man can have. The more we women take over a man's role, the less masculine he feels, and the more masculine we become. That's not to say we shouldn't be capable of handling his role in an emergency, but unless it is forced on us by our husband's absence, we should keep out of it. Yes, Beth, it can be a struggle on just one income in our early married years. We may not be able to buy luxuries that others can on 2 incomes. But deep down, a man still prefers to provide for his wife alone. He likes to feel that we depend on him. The more dependent on our husband we appear to him to be, the more tender and caring he tends to feel toward us. Now, I'm not saying this is always possible. Buying a first home is very expensive, but parents can often help out here. But it is the lovely ideal to aim for. When our husband provides for us alone, he becomes more confident and more masculine. We in turn become more feminine and delightful to him. Luxuries never bring the lasting happiness we think they will. Only living God's laws bring us lasting happiness. Beth spoke again. Angela detected an edge to her voice. Well then, what do you say is the woman's role? The teacher smiled. This is our role. She turned and wrote on the board. A woman's God-given role. Companion. Mother. Homemaker. A man's God-given role. Leader. Provider. Protector. They fit together like a horse and carriage, Beth. Both are equally important, but clearly different. And yes, it's true that the roles are blurred in today's Western society. This blurring of roles causes much strain and unhappiness. It is the root cause of an enormous number of unhappy and failed marriages. To find contentment and satisfaction in our lives, we need to live our God-given roles. God has suited us to these roles. Most men are, by their masculine nature, born leaders. They tend to be decisive and have logical, able minds. They are also competitive, muscular, and have a strong desire to excel. Nor are they afraid of spiders or the dark or strange noises at night. But we women are different. We tend to be intuitive and nurturing and need security. We often hesitate and change our minds when it comes to decision-making. Also, we have a strong need to be loved and protected. And men like us this way. It makes them feel protective. Men love to protect a woman. When we make our man feel protective, it arouses his tender feelings, just as tender feelings are aroused in us when we feel protective towards a small child. And when we feel protected by a man, it awakens in us gentleness and femininity. Beth is right about marriage being a partnership, but it is a complementary partnership. Husband and wife have different roles. The husband leads, provides, and protects his wife and children. His wife helps him, gives him cheerful companionship, consoles him, and admires him. She is a mother to his children and ensures that his home is a peaceful haven for him to come home to and recover. When we fulfill our role well, our husband will love us and cherish us. He just can't help doing so, for that's the way God made him. We and our husbands are two different halves of one complete whole. Put us together, add love, and we become a beautiful, complete, well-rounded personality, much stronger than our two separate halves. Here's a little poem adapted from Longfellow that says it nicely. The string is to the bow as the woman is to the man. Though she bends him, she obeys him. Though she draws him, yet she follows. I bet a lot of women will hate that saying. We will end this video here and start another.